All right, let's dive into a story that's, believe it or not, about 2,500 years old, but it asks a question that feels so incredibly relevant today. I mean, it's almost a little unsettling. This is the story of a man who had everything, literally everything society tells us we should want. And then he made a choice. A choice almost none of us would even dare to consider. So I want you to just pause for a second and really imagine this. You've got it all. The money, the perfect family, you're young, you're healthy, your entire life is set. What on earth could possibly happen that would make you just walk away from all of it? That's the big puzzle we're gonna try and solve.
Okay, so let's meet our main character. His name is Raṭṭhapāla, and he comes to us from the ancient Pali texts. Now, I want to be super clear about this. This is not one of those stories about someone escaping a terrible life. Nope, Raṭṭhapāla was the son of the most prominent family in town. He lived a life of absolute comfort, completely shielded from any kind of real struggle. His future? It was basically a paved road of pleasure and ease.
But then, something happens. A single event. And it changes everything. He makes a decision that's so shocking, it just blows a hole right through that perfect life he was living. He goes to listen to a talk given by the Buddha, and the words, they just hit him like a lightning bolt. It's this moment of incredible clarity, a huge realization. He suddenly sees that his comfortable home life, it's not a paradise, it's a cage. A really nice cage for sure, but a cage nonetheless. And it's holding him back from this deeper spiritual life that he now knows is possible. So you can imagine his parents are absolutely horrified. He's their only kid. They just flat out refuse. So what does Raṭṭhapāla do? He takes this incredibly drastic step. He just lies down on the bare floor and starts a hunger strike. His parents are begging him, pleading with him, but he says nothing. He just lies there, forcing them to face the fact that their son might actually die. I mean, what a choice to be faced with. And that really tells you everything you need to know about his mindset, right? This wasn't just some phase he was going through. It was a life or death conviction for him. There was no going back, no middle ground. His old life was done, period. And when his parents saw that absolute certainty, they finally gave in. And so he becomes a monk. Okay, so fast forward a few years. He has dedicated himself completely to this new path, and he's even reached its ultimate goal, enlightenment. He gets permission to go back and visit his family, but going home, well, that means coming face to face with the exact life he walked away from. And his new perspective, it's about to be put to a massive test. His dad, who is obviously still desperate to get his son back, unveils this giant mountain of gold, and his sales pitch is actually pretty clever. He's like, look, Raṭṭhapāla, this is all yours. You don't have to give up being good. You can be rich and make merit. Just come back home. He's trying to find a compromise to connect the two worlds he assumes his son is torn between. But Raṭṭhapāla's response is just stunning. He looks at this pile of gold, a fortune, and tells his father that is the real source of sorrow and stress. His advice? Take it all and dump it in the middle of the Ganges River. Can you imagine? He doesn't see wealth anymore. All he sees is a heavy, heavy burden. And then comes temptation number 2. His former wives show up looking absolutely beautiful. They try to be playful, asking him what kind of heavenly nymphs he's chasing after for him to give them up. But he doesn't see them as wives or objects of desire anymore. He just looks at them and calls them sisters. That one word is so jarring, so utterly disconnected from who they used to be to each other, that they literally faint, right there on the spot. Well, as you can imagine, a story like this gets around. And it eventually reaches the king, a guy named Kauravya. And the king is just as baffled as everyone else. So he sends for Raṭṭhapāla. He's determined to get to the bottom of this. He needs to understand why this young man with every advantage would make such a bizarre choice. So the king, being a very practical, logical kind of ruler, lays out what he thinks are the only good reasons someone would do this. He says, look, people renounce the world when they get old, or when they get really sick, or when they lose all their money, or when their family dies. To him, it's simple. You only quit the game when you've already lost. But then he looks at Raṭṭhapāla and he's like, but none of that applies to you. He says you're young, you're healthy, you're rich. He's basically spelling out the central mystery for us. So what's the deal? Why on earth did you do it? And this is it. This is the moment Raṭṭhapāla finally explains himself. And he says his decision had nothing to do with his personal situation. It wasn't about what he had or didn't have. It was based on 4 deep, profound truths about the world that he learned from the Buddha. Let's break them down. Okay, so reason number 1. The world is unstable and swept away. Think about that for a second. It means that everything we try to grab onto, everything we think is solid, is actually in a constant state of flux. It's all being swept away. Nothing lasts. So to make his point, Raṭṭhapāla asks the king, hey, remember when you were young, a strong warrior, invincible? And the king's like, yeah, of course. Then Raṭṭhapāla asks, and what about now? And the king, who's 80 years old at this point, admits that his own body betrays him. Sometimes he tries to put his foot down in one spot and it lands somewhere else. And right there, boom, the king gets it. He feels that instability in his own bones. All right, truth number 2, the world has no shelter and no savior. What does that mean? It means that when it really comes down to it, especially when we're talking about our own pain and suffering, we are completely on our own. There's no one who can truly save us from it. The king pushes back, right? He says, what are you talking about? I've got armies to protect me. So Raṭṭhapāla asks him a simple question. Do you have any chronic illnesses? And the king admits, yeah, he does. Okay, Raṭṭhapāla says, can your armies, your friends, your family, can any of them feel that pain for you, just for a second? And the king has to say, no, I alone have to feel it. And just like that, he gets the second point. An entire army can't shield him from his own suffering. The third big idea is all about ownership. We go through life thinking, this is mine, that is mine. But Raṭṭhapāla's point is that we don't really own anything. We're just caretakers. We're borrowing it all. Because in the end, we have to leave every single thing behind. So Raṭṭhapāla asks the king, when you die, can you take all this gold and treasure with you? And the king immediately knows the answer. Of course not. It's impossible. Someone else will take it all, and he will have to move on with nothing but his own actions. All that incredible wealth, it's just a loan. And the loan is coming due. And that brings us to the 4th and final truth. And this one might be the toughest one to swallow. The world is wanting, insatiable, the slave of craving. Basically, our world runs on wanting more. We are constantly craving, and that craving can never be satisfied. Raṭṭhapāla's way of proving this is just brilliant. He asks the king, okay, imagine a messenger comes and tells you there's a rich country to the east, ripe for the taking. Would you go conquer it? Of course, the king says. What about to the west, the north, the south? What if they told you there were even more lands across the great ocean? And the king has to admit it. He'd want to conquer them all. Raṭṭhapāla doesn't even have to make the point. The king proves it himself. His desire has no finish line. And so that leads the king, and us really, to this powerful, unavoidable conclusion. If you accept that the world is unstable, that it can't protect you, that you can't own any of it, and that it will always leave you wanting more, then chasing wealth and power starts to look like a fool's game, doesn't it? Wisdom, Raṭṭhapāla says, that is the real treasure, because it's the one thing you can actually attain and hold on to in this life. So this ancient story leaves us with a question that feels incredibly modern. See, Raṭṭhapāla didn't leave because his life was bad. He left because he saw that change, loss, and dissatisfaction were built into the very system of the world. And that forces us to look at our own lives and ask, if we know for a fact that we have to leave everything behind, what exactly are we spending our lives chasing, and what is truly valuable?